everyone, and welcome to another News Coolum video and another plug side chat. Again, I'm probably going to be recording a few of these. I have a lot of feedback and things that I'm processing post Boltmas videos. I don't know if I'll do another Boltmas video. I might try, but yeah, well, we'll have to see how things work. Just in terms of things to do, I have a lot to do this January that I'm working on and trying to get prepped, and some of it is pertinent for the channel, so I'll fill you all in. But one of the big things that came out of the most recent, I think, Boltmas video, I'll put a link in it below, so unfortunately some spoilers maybe. But I visited a BP Pulse site that had the 6 HYC Alpitronic 400 kilowatt chargers there. And, one of the things that happened is I pulled in to one of the stalls that was NACS only, the 2 J3400 plugs on the same dispenser. So I initially tried to use my adapter and didn't work. Normally I won't bother with the NACS, but there were 2 other CCS1 EVs at the site. So there were only 2 CCS plugs that were going to be reasonably available without an adapter. Part of why I want BP Pulse to maybe address their NACS distribution in the future. That might be a video for another day. But I'm going to try to just shout out to Brandon Flash here and see if Alpitronic, they might have a channel as well that will get tagged or flagged when I do this video. But because I was using that NACS cable, I ran into an issue where as I pulled the cable out of the retainer in the HYC400, one of the clips inside the retainer just basically fell out. I could tell that it was still, there was a little bit of a grab there as I was pulling it out, and it, whatever I did was the last thing necessary to completely break that clip loose. And I went back to the other one, right, to demonstrate what it's supposed to look like. And that one had already been broken out completely. So this was a relatively new Alpitronic that had been put in. The site had just gone live maybe a week before. The Alpitronic units, the HYC400s, they do show the usage per plug, and these weren't that heavily used plugs. And to be fair, I didn't check all of the other NACS cables, in particular the retainers on each one of these dispensers throughout the site. But 2 of the 2 that I checked were broken. And so this indicates to me some sort of a design flaw with the retainer itself. And so just kind of bringing this to Alpitronic's attention, because I think that's something that they're going to want to address with the retainers on these HYC400 units, specifically for the NACS cable. Because the big difference, and I guess literally big, right, the size difference between the NACS J3400 cable and the CCS1 cable is that the CCS1 cable has this very large, robust latching mechanism built into the plug. And that's why it's a larger cable, right? The actual plug interface itself is not necessarily that much larger than the NACS J3400. It is because of the discrete DC charging pins that also enabled it to hold higher power and higher voltage. But it's the discrete locking mechanism and latching mechanism that makes it larger. But that's also why the retention on it isn't going to be an issue. With NACS J3400, one of the ways they made it smaller is by shifting the responsibility of the locking mechanism from the plug itself to the car. So the car's charging port is what actually locks that NACS J3400 cable into place. So if you're going to do a retainer or retention for this NACS J3400 plug on a charger, something has to happen to replicate that same, you know, not necessarily a locking mechanism, but a means of retaining that plug. And so right now, the plastic clip that's breaking off doesn't seem to have any sort of retention value within the Alpitronic HYC400 retainer, other than just maybe guiding the plug into place. And it looks like perhaps what's happening is the weight of the cable and the leverage is being placed up onto that little plastic lip, right? And that's just too much stress for it. And so even without it, it does appear that the plug will stay in place. I just don't know how securely. And so my concern for this is really twofold. Is one, it's not like the retention is a problem because you don't want cables falling out onto the ground where they can get run over, they can get damaged, something can get into the DC pins or the communication and proximity pins. You don't want anything like that to happen, right? So you do want a retention to actually hold the plug into place where it's not going to get water intrusion, like I said, debris, ice, whatever, or get, like I said, get run over, because it is a parking lot, right? People do drive in parking lots. But the other issue is to potential for detritus. Now, I don't know whether this would affect like a car plug or not, socket or not, but with the plastic basically breaking off and falling off, there is a potential that that could get stuck as you plug in, right, to a car port maybe, and then, I don't know, get jammed in, or some other possibility where you're introducing material into a plug and a socket that's not really designed for that. The tolerances aren't there for that. So it's just sort of a twofold. I don't know what Alpitronic needs to do to fix this NACS J3400 retainer in their units, but it is something I think that they do need to address. They need to make sure that both the plug is being retained so that it doesn't fall out, but also that whatever material and design that they use to retain it is robust enough that it can at least, you know, endure some thousands of cycles and years of mechanical, you know, use, right? Whereas, like I said, this was a brand new unit, very low usage based on the metering screen. I didn't recall checking the Alpitronic HYC400 that Mercedes used at their site. Next time I'm there, I'll check that NACS J3400 retention. But I'm guessing it's the same design. It's a standard Alpitronic HYC400. And then, like I said, I haven't had a chance to use any other providers who are using the HYC400 yet. So maybe Walmart, maybe Iona soon. But again, like I said, this, as far as I know, is going to be common throughout all the HYC400s. So like I said, I just wanted to do a shout out to Alpitronic. Maybe Brandon Flash, if he gets flagged in this, we'll check it. But yeah, I do think it's an issue that needs to be addressed. It's a minor issue, right? You're talking about, I don't know, like a couple of dollar 3D printed plastic part, right? But they need to figure out some way, I think, of retaining the NACS J3400 plug without that plastic clip breaking off and without the risk of the plug and cable falling out and landing on the ground and being exposed to the elements and cars and whatnot. So anyway, like I said, just a big shout out. Otherwise, you know, I've been having great experiences with the Alpitronics so far. I'll probably do a more formal review of the hardware from a user perspective in the future, but yeah, I just wanted to put this out there because it is an issue that I've noticed just using these units, and not even that frequently up to this point. So if it's an issue that I've noticed, then I'm guessing it's something that's maybe going to be more widespread over time. Maybe it's much ado about nothing and they just delete that plastic tab from the retainer if it's not needed for anything, right? So anyway, let me know what your experiences have been. Have you noticed the same thing with the Alpitronic units, the HYC400s? Have you seen the NACS J3400 retention clips breaking or broken off, or did you just not even notice if they were in there? As always, thank you for watching.